Have you ever heard of a crime so strange, so chilling, that over a century later, it still sends shivers down your spine? Today, we're diving into one of history's most baffling and terrifying unsolved cases, the Hinterkaifeck Murders. This isn't just a story, it's a real-life mystery that has haunted Germany for over 100 years. What happened on that remote farmstead in 1922? Who was responsible for the brutal end of an entire family? And why does this case continue to fascinate and horrify us? We're going to explore every strange clue, every eerie detail, and every dead-end theory. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to step back in time to a place where the truth is stranger and far more terrifying than fiction. Our story begins in the heart of Bavaria, Germany, on a small, isolated farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck. The year is 1922. The farm was home to the Gruber family, the elderly couple Andreas and Casilia Gruber, their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, and her two young children, 7-year-old Casilia and 2-year-old Joseph. Also living with them was the family's new maid, Maria Baumgartner. Hinterkaifeck was secluded, set back from the nearest village, making the Grubers quite isolated from their neighbors. This isolation, which was once just a fact of rural life, would soon become a key element in their horrifying fate. The family, particularly the patriarch Andreas, had a reputation for being somewhat withdrawn and even cantankerous. This didn't exactly endear them to the local community, but no one could have imagined the horror that was about to unfold. The weeks leading up to the end of March 1922 were filled with a growing sense of unease at Hinterkaifeck. Strange and unsettling events began to occur, events that hinted at a hidden presence on the farm. Andreas Gruber, the head of the household, confided in his neighbors about these odd occurrences. He told them he had found a set of footprints in the fresh snow leading from the dense forest directly to the farmhouse. He meticulously searched the entire property, but he couldn't find any footprints leading away. It was as if someone had walked out of the woods, entered the farm, and simply vanished into thin air. This discovery alone would be enough to make anyone nervous, but the strangeness was just beginning. Soon after, the family started hearing inexplicable noises from the attic. Footsteps, creaks, and shuffling sounds echoed from above, primarily at night. Andreas climbed up to investigate multiple times, but each time he found nothing. The attic was empty. No person, no animal, nothing out of place. Yet, the sounds continued, a constant, unnerving reminder that they might not be alone. Then, a set of house keys, which were always kept in a secure place, mysteriously disappeared. They were never seen again. As if that wasn't enough, a newspaper from Munich, a city the Grubers had never visited and had no connections to, suddenly appeared on the property. No one knew how it got there. The family's previous maid had actually quit her job 6 months earlier, claiming the house was haunted. She was terrified by the strange noises and the overwhelming feeling of being watched. She left and refused to come back. These incidents painted a disturbing picture. Someone, or something, seemed to be secretly living on the farm, observing the Grubers, moving through their home unseen. Was it a ghost, as the former maid believed? Or was it a person, hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike? The family was clearly on edge, but they chose to stay. It was a decision that would prove fatal. The last time anyone saw the Gruber family alive was on March 31st, 1922. Little Casilia didn't show up for school, and the family failed to appear at church on Sunday, which was highly unusual for them. Days passed with no sign of life from the isolated farm. Neighbors started to worry. On April 4th, after several days of silence, a group of local men, led by a man named Lorenz Schlittenbauer, decided to investigate. They approached the quiet farmhouse, calling out for the family. The silence was absolute. The farm animals were agitated and unfed, but the house itself was unnervingly still. Fearing the worst, the men forced their way into the barn. And there, they made a gruesome discovery. They found the bodies of Andreas Gruber, his wife Kazilia, their daughter Victoria, and the young Kazilia. They had been lured into the barn one by one and brutally killed. Their bodies were partially covered with hay. The scene was one of unimaginable violence. But the horror wasn't over. The search party then entered the main house. In her bedroom, they found the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had only started her job on the very day of the murders. In his cot, in his mother's room, they found the youngest member of the family, 2-year-old Joseph. Both had met the same violent end as the others. An entire family of 6 had been wiped out. The investigation that followed was one of the most extensive in German history at the time. The police were baffled. The murder weapon was determined to be a mattock, a type of pickaxe, which was found in the barn. The way the victims were killed suggested a methodical, almost ritualistic approach. It appeared they were led into the barn one by one, likely under some false pretense, and then attacked. This implied that the killer was someone the family might have known, or at least someone they didn't immediately perceive as a threat. The initial autopsies were conducted right there on the farm, and the victims' heads were later removed and sent to Munich for further examination by clairvoyants, a detail that shows just how desperate and strange this investigation became. Unfortunately, these paranormal efforts yielded no results, and the skulls were eventually lost during the chaos of World War II. One of the most chilling details of the entire case is what happened after the murders. The evidence showed that the killer, or killers, did not flee immediately. Instead, they stayed on the farm for several days. They tended to the livestock, feeding the cows and other animals. They ate food from the kitchen and slept in the beds. They lived in the house, surrounded by the bodies of their victims. This detail is what elevates the case from a brutal murder to something deeply, psychologically disturbing. Who could commit such a violent act and then calmly go about the daily chores of the farm? This suggests a killer who was not only ruthless, but also incredibly calm and composed. Someone who felt comfortable, maybe even at home, in that house of death. Naturally, the police looked for suspects. Over the years, more than 100 people were questioned, but no one was ever charged. Several theories emerged, each with its own set of compelling arguments and frustrating dead ends. One of the primary suspects was Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the neighbor who led the search party. He had a complicated history with the Grubers. It was rumored that he was the biological father of little Joseph, the result of an affair with Victoria. He had also been in a relationship with Victoria before she married another man, who was later killed in World War I. Schlittenbauer's behavior after the discovery of the bodies was also considered strange. He seemed to know his way around the farm unusually well and disturbed the crime scene by moving the bodies. He was questioned extensively, but there was never enough evidence to convict him. For the rest of his life, he was viewed with suspicion by the community. Another popular theory involved Carl Gabriel, Victoria's husband, who was officially reported as killed in action in France during the war. However, his body was never recovered. This led to speculation that he might have survived, returned to Germany under a new identity, and sought revenge on his wife and her family. Why? Perhaps he discovered the rumors about her affair with Schlittenbauer and the true parentage of his supposed son, Joseph. Some people even claim to have seen a man who looked like Carl Gabriel in the area around the time of the murders. There were even theories that he had fled to Russia and returned. While this makes for a dramatic story, there's no concrete evidence to support it. It remains a tantalizing but unproven possibility. Other theories range from a transient robber to a politically motivated assassin. The family was known to have a significant amount of money hidden on the farm, which was surprisingly left untouched by the killer. This makes robbery an unlikely motive. The only thing taken was a small amount of cash from a wallet. If the goal was money, the killer failed spectacularly or had a last-minute change of heart, which seems unlikely given the brutality of the crime. Some have suggested a wandering vagrant or an escaped patient from a nearby mental institution, someone who stumbled upon the isolated farm and acted on a violent impulse. This could explain the strange behavior of staying on the farm, but it doesn't quite fit with the methodical way the family was lured into the barn one by one. So what are we left with? A century later, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain a perfect storm of unanswered questions. The footprints in the snow that led to the house, but not away. The noises in the attic. The missing keys. The killer who lived on the farm for days after the crime. The lack of a clear motive. The long list of suspects, none of whom could be definitively linked to the crime. Every clue seems to lead to another dead end. Every theory crumbles under scrutiny. In 2007, a German police academy took on the case as a cold case project. Using modern investigative techniques, they analyzed the evidence one last time. Their final report remains classified, out of respect for the living relatives of the suspects. But their conclusion was clear. While they couldn't definitively name the killer, they did have a prime suspect. However, they also concluded that too much time had passed, and the crime would likely never be officially solved. The farmstead of Hinterkaifeck was demolished a year after the murders in 1923. The land was plowed over, and today, there is nothing left to mark the spot where the tragedy occurred except a small memorial shrine. But the story endures. It has become a dark piece of German folklore, a cautionary tale about isolation, secrets, and the evil that can lurk just out of sight. It reminds us that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not supernatural entities, but real people. The mystery of who walked out of the woods and into the Gruber home, who hid in their attic, and who ultimately destroyed their family, remains unsolved, locked away in the silence of the past. What do you think happened? Was it a jealous neighbor, a vengeful husband returned from the dead, or a complete stranger? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this deep dive into the Hinterkaifeck mystery. If you found this case as fascinating and chilling as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Stay safe and see you next time.